Chapter 5. Tom as a Patrician. Tom Canty, left alone in the prince's cabinet, made good use of his opportunity. He turned himself this way and that before the great mirror, admiring his finery, then walked away, imitating the prince's high-bred carriage, and still observing the results in the glass. Next, he drew the beautiful sword, and bowed, kissing the blade, and laying it across his breast as he had seen a noble knight do, by way of salute to the lieutenant of the Tower 5 or 6 weeks before, when delivering the great lords of Norfolk and Surrey into his hands for captivity. Tom played with the jeweled dagger that hung upon his thigh. He examined the costly and exquisite ornaments of the room. He tried each of the sumptuous chairs, and thought how proud he would be if the awful court herd could only peep in and see him in his grandeur. He wondered if they would believe the marvelous tale he should tell when he got home, or if they would shake their heads and say his overtaxed imagination had at last upset his reason. At the end of half an hour, it suddenly occurred to him that the prince was gone a long time. Then, right away, he began to feel lonely. Very soon he fell to listening and longing, and ceased to toy with the pretty things about him. He grew uneasy, then restless, then distressed. Suppose someone should come and catch him in the prince's clothes, and the prince not there to explain. Might they not hang him at once, and inquire into his case afterwards? He had heard that the great were prompt about small matters. His fear rose higher and higher, and trembling, he softly opened the door to the antechamber, resolved to fly and seek the prince, and, through him, protection and release. 6 gorgeous gentlemen servants, and 2 young pages of high degree, clothed like butterflies, sprang to their feet and bowed low before him. He stepped quickly back and shut the door. He said, "Oh, they mock at me. They will go and tell. Oh, why came I here to cast away my life?" He walked up and down the floor, filled with nameless fears, listening and starting at every trifling sound. Presently the door swung open, and a silken page said, "The Lady Jane Grey." The door closed, and a sweet young lady, richly clad, bounded toward him. But she stopped suddenly, and said in a distressed voice, "Oh, what aileth thee, my lord?" Tom's breath was nearly failing him, but he made shift to stammer out, "Oh, be merciful thou! In sooth, I am no lord, only poor Tom Canty of awful court in the city. Prithee, let me see the prince, and he will of his grace restore me to my rags, and let me hence unhurt. Oh, be thou merciful, save me!" By this time the boy was on his knees and supplicating with his eyes and uplifted hands as well as with his tongue. The young girl seemed horror-stricken. She cried out, "Oh, my lord, on thy knees, and to me!" Then she fled away in fright, and Tom, smitten with despair, sank down, murmuring, "There is no help, there is no hope. Now they will come and take me." Whilst he lay there benumbed with terror, dreadful tidings were speeding through the palace. The whisper, for it was whispered always, flew from menial to menial, from lord to lady, down all the long corridors, from story to story, from saloon to saloon. "The prince hath gone mad! The prince hath gone mad!" Soon every saloon, every marble hall had its groups of glittering lords and ladies, and other groups of dazzling lesser folk, talking earnestly together in whispers, and every face had in it dismay. Presently, a splendid official came marching by these groups, making solemn proclamation, "In the name of the king, let none list to this false and foolish matter upon pain of death, nor discuss the same, nor carry it abroad, in the name of the king." The whispering ceased as suddenly as if the whispers had been stricken dumb. Soon there was a general buzz along the corridors. "The prince! See, the prince! The prince comes!" Poor Tom came slowly walking past the low bowing groups, trying to bow in return, and meekly gazing upon his strange surroundings with bewildered and pathetic eyes. Great nobles walked upon each side of him, making him lean upon them, and so steady his steps. Behind him followed the court physicians and some servants. Presently Tom found himself in a noble apartment of the palace, and heard the door close behind him. Around him stood those who had come with him. Before him, at a little distance, reclined a very large and a very fat man, with a wide, pulpy face and a stern expression. His large head was very gray, and his whiskers, which he wore only around his face, like a frame, were gray also. His clothing was of rich stuff, but old and slightly frayed in places. One of his swollen legs had a pillow under it, and was wrapped in bandages. There was silence now, and there was no head there, but was bent in reverence, except this man's, this stern-countenanced invalid, who was the dread Henry VIII. He said, and his face grew gentle as he began to speak, "How now, my lord Edward, my prince? Hast been minded to cozen me, the king, thy good father, who loveth thee, and kindly useth thee, with a sorry jest?" Poor Tom was listening, as well as his dazed faculties would let him, to the beginning of the speech. But when the words, "me, the good king," fell upon his ears, his face blanched, and he dropped as instantly upon his knees as if a shot had brought him there. Lifting up his hands, he exclaimed, "Thou, the king? Then I am undone indeed." This speech seemed to stun the king. His eyes wandered from face to face aimlessly, then rested bewildered upon the boy before him. Then he said in a tone of deep disappointment, "Alack, I had believed the rumor so disproportioned to the truth, but I fear me 'tis not so." He breathed a heavy sigh, and said in a gentle voice, "Come to thy father, child. Thou art not well." Tom was assisted to his feet, and approached the majesty of England, humble and trembling. The king took the frightened face between his hands, and gazed earnestly and lovingly into it a while, as if seeking some grateful sign of returning reason there. Then pressed his curly head against his breast, and patted it tenderly. Presently he said, "Dost not know thy father, child? Break not mine old heart. Say thou knowest me. Thou dost know me, dost thou not?" "Yea, thou art my dread lord, the king, whom God preserve." "True, true, that is well. Be comforted, tremble not so. There is none here would hurt thee. There is none here but loves thee. Thou art better now. Thy ill dream passeth. Is't not so? Thou wilt not miscall thyself again, as they say thou didst a little while agone." "I pray thee of thy grace believe me, I did but speak the truth, most dread lord, for I am the meanest among thy subjects, being a pauper born. And 'tis by a sore mischance and accident I am here, albeit I was therein nothing blameful. I am but young to die, and thou canst save me with one little word. Oh, speak it, sir." "Die? Talk not so, sweet prince. Peace, peace to thy troubled heart. Thou shalt not die." Tom dropped upon his knees with a glad cry. "God requite thy mercy, O my king, and save thee. Long to bless thy land." Then springing up, he turned a joyful face toward the two lords in waiting and exclaimed, "Thou heardst it! I am not to die! The king hath said it!" There was no movement, save that all bowed with grave respect, but no one spoke. He hesitated, a little confused, then turned timidly toward the king, saying, "I may go now?" "Go? Surely, if thou desirest. But why not tarry a little? Whither wouldst thou go?" Tom dropped his eyes and answered humbly, "Peradventure I mistook, but I did think me free, and so was I moved to seek again the kennel where I was born and bred to misery, yet which harboureth my mother and my sisters, and so is home to me, wherein these pomps and splendours whereunto I am not used. Oh, please you, sir, to let me go." The king was silent and thoughtful a while, and his face betrayed a growing distress and uneasiness. Presently he said, with something of hope in his voice, "Perchance he is but mad upon this one strain, and hath his wits unmarred as toucheth other matter. God send it may be so. We will make a trial." He then asked Tom a question in Latin, and Tom answered him lamely in the same tongue. The lords and doctors manifested their gratification also. The king said, "'Twas not according to his schooling and ability, but showeth that his mind is but diseased, not stricken fatally. How say you, sir?" The physician addressed bowed low and replied, "It jumpeth to my own conviction, sire, that thou hast divined aright." The king looked pleased with his encouragement, coming as it did from so excellent authority, and continued with good heart, Now mark ye all, we will try him further. He put a question to Tom in French. Tom stood silent a moment, embarrassed by having so many eyes centered upon him, then said diffidently, I have no knowledge of this tongue, so please your majesty. The king fell back upon his couch. The attendees flew to his assistance, but he put them aside, and said, Trouble me not. It is nothing but a scurvy faintness. Raise me. There, 'tis sufficient. Come hither, child. There, rest thy poor troubled head upon thy father's heart, and be at peace. Thou'lt soon be well. 'Tis but a passing fantasy. Fear thou not. Thou'lt soon be well. Then he turned toward the company. His gentle manner changed, and baleful lightnings began to play from his eyes. He said, List ye all. This my son is mad, but it is not permanent. Overstudy hath done this, and somewhat too much confinement. Away with his books and teachers. See ye to it. Pleasure him with sports. Beguile him in wholesome ways, so that his health come again. He raised himself higher still, and went on with energy. He is mad, but he is my son, and England's heir, and mad or sane shall he reign. And hear ye further, and proclaim it. Whoso speaketh of this his distemper worketh against the peace and order of these realms, and shall to the gallows. Give me to drink. I burn. This sorrow sappeth my strength. There, take away the cup. Support me. There, that is well. Mad is he. Were he 1,000 times mad, yet he is the Prince of Wales, and I, the king, will confirm it. This very morrow shall he be installed in his princely dignity in due and ancient form. Take instant order for it, my Lord Hertford. One of the nobles knelt at the royal couch, and said, The king's majesty knoweth that the hereditary great marshal of England lieth attainted in the Tower. It were not meet that one attained... Peace! Insult not mine ears with his hated name. Is this man to live forever? Am I to be balked of my will? Is the prince to tarry uninstalled, because, forsooth, the realm lacketh an earl marshal free of treasonable taint to invest him with his honours? No. By the splendour of God, warn my parliament to bring me Norfolk's doom before the sun rise again, else shall they answer for it grievously. The Lord Hertford said, The king's will is law, and rising returned to his former place. Gradually the wrath faded out of the old king's face, and he said, Kiss me, my prince. Therefore, what fearest thou? Am I not thy loving father? Thou art good to me, that am unworthy, O mighty and gracious Lord. That in truth I know, but it grieveth me to think of him that is to die, and... Ah, 'tis like thee. 'Tis like thee. I know thy heart is still the same, even though thy mind hath suffered hurt, for thou wert ever of a gentle spirit. But this duke standeth between thee and thine honours. I will have another in his stead that shall bring no taint to his great office. Comfort thee, my prince. Trouble not thy poor head with this matter. But is it not that I speed him hence, my liege? How long might he not live but for me? Take no thought of him, my prince. He is not worthy. Kiss me once again, and go to thy trifles and amusements, for my malady distresseth me. I am aweary, and would rest. Go with thine uncle Hertford and thy people, and come again when my body is refreshed. Tom, heavy-hearted, was conducted from the presence, for this last sentence was a death blow to the hope he had cherished that now he would be set free. Once more he heard the buzz of low voices, exclaiming, The prince comes! His spirits sank lower and lower as he moved between the glittering files of bowing courtiers, for he recognized that he was indeed a captive now, and might remain forever shut up in this gilded cage, a forlorn and friendless prince, except God in his mercy take pity on him and set him free. And, turn where he would, he seemed to see floating in the air the severed head and the remembered face of the great Duke of Norfolk, his eyes fixed upon him reproachfully. His old dreams had been so pleasant, but this reality was so dreary.